Hello and welcome to Twisted Britain, a podcast on true crime in Britain with a sprinkling of weird and the macabre. Your hosts are...
Me, Bob Dale.
And me, Nadine Royal.
They're a couple of friends who met in the pub and developed a friendship based on a mutual love of food, podcasts and pub quizzes. They met in the settlement in Stirling and that's where they record. Each week they both tell a story of something twisted. One long one and one short one. And they decide who goes first based on the flip of a coin.
Which I remembered to bring this week. Yay!
So shut up, Zach.
Yeah, shut up, Zach. Once again, those of you who listen to us on a regular basis will have noticed that wasn't Nadine or I. We'd like to welcome along to Twisted Britain our second co-host, Vicky. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. It's an honour.
Thank you for reading that so beautifully. You did much better than both of us did.
Nailed it first time round.
Thanks for coming along and showing us up. That was good of you. So this is another little bit of a special one for us. As we did a couple of episodes ago, we had one of our Patreons on to do the intro and sit with us for a bit. And Vicky has kindly been one of our most generous Patreons for quite a wee while now. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. And has also sent us lovely gifts and stuff, which is by far the best thing I've ever been sent in the post, ever.
It's like the only thing I'm not allowed to read to my son before he goes to bed.
It's this really cool zine, and the one that we got sent features things on like Satanism and the Beast of Jersey, like loads of cool little stories, like horror-themed, murder-themed stories, which obviously I went berserk for.
Yes, you did. And some sweet-ass buttons, which I went berserk for.
Sweet-ass buttons.
So thank you very much for joining us tonight, Vicky, and doing that. That was really good of you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So you are obviously a podcast fan.
Yeah.
What are you a big podcast fan? Do you listen to a load of them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I am. I avoid my own thoughts as much as possible, I guess. Is true crime kind of your genre then? No, it's probably more kind of anomalous phenomena, paranormal, Fortean, cryptids, that sort of thing.
So
folklore and legends.
You're definitely a Nadine rather than a Bob then.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I'm more about killed by a ghost.
Excellent.
So you'll have enjoyed her murdered by a ghost episode then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was awesome. Yeah.
Cool. You've been privy to our Patreon episodes recently as well, and I promise you a ghost ship one's coming soon. So yes. we'll dedicate that one to you as well when it comes out.
Awesome, thank you.
What other than Twisted Britain, what podcasts do you listen to?
The first one I got into a few years ago was probably like lots of people's last podcast on the left.
Oh,
going through a rough time. A friend recommended that, and then from there, I guess I've got like it's either true crime or like I said, kind of high strangeness and weird stuff.
Cool.
Other than Twisted Britain, I like true crime wise. I'd say Murder Mile's really good.
Yeah, Michael does an excellent job on Murder Mile.
Research is phenomenal. It's unbelievable.
It's one of those ones that we aspire to be anywhere near as good at research, but yeah, the man's a British legend when it comes to true crime.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And you're also talking to two of the last podcast's biggest UK fans.
Yeah, we're going to go see them live in September, and I'm pretty much about to shit myself with excitement about it.
Yeah, and she has been for months. Like I said, thank you for joining us, and I suppose we should crack on with the podcast. I could literally just talk to you all night, but that wouldn't make Twisted Britain... Well, it would be a good episode of Twisted Britain, actually, I think,
yeah,
but we should probably read a couple of cases out, I suppose.
Okay.
So how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, yeah. And Vicky, you well?
Oh, yeah, top banana, yeah.
Yeah, top banana. We've got so many things that we need to put on T-shirts. We've got Safe as Chickens and top banana.
Evil carrot.
Evil carrots. I'm going to have to change my entire wardrobe, I feel.
I know. You been doing much?
I've been working all weekend. Taking photos.
Taking photos.
Taking photos at a festival in Glasgow that was full of lovely savoury people. I've never seen so many 14-year-olds in neon in my life.
Oh.
I felt like I needed to have a cold bath when I got home because I felt so horrible. Old man ran over.
My brother and his wife went to that festival also.
Oh, did they? You should have told me. I could have seen them.
No, and then they said they're like, I think we're getting a bit old for this.
And I'm older than your brother, so there you go. Yeah, how's your research gone?
Yeah, it's gone well, thank you.
Oh, Vicky, how do you do your research for your zine then? Is it just stuff that tickles your fancy and you go for it?
Yeah, just anything I come across in books or online.
Yeah, it's one of these things. I don't know about you, but when we, both of us are fairly similar. When we come to our research, we just start googling random shit.
Well, that's how I got murdered by a ghost.
And then whatever kind of grabs you, you just go with.
Yeah, something like that. Or somebody says something, and it's anything I'm interested in and want to research and know more about. I then kind of make into a zine.
We'll post some pictures of it. Actually, this week.
Sure. Yeah, unfortunately, Vicky's zine just now is out of commission, but we're trying to bribe her into bringing it back.
Yeah, we will do. We'll get there. We'll get there. She's got 2 guaranteed subscribers here, so we'll get there. So I suppose without further ado,
Flip that coin.
let's flip that coin. Vicky, would you do the honours of calling heads or tails? Oh, you have to say
Heads, somebody goes.
heads or tails. Somebody goes first.
Oh, Tails, long story first. I can't remember who's doing that.
So I'm on long story. So
Yeah,
tails,
Bob.
Bob goes first. Hang on.
Flip.
It's heads.
Ooh, it's me.
Nadine, you're up.
My short story this week. Right.
I'm excited as always.
Well, this one, how did I happen upon this? I can't exactly remember how I happened upon this, but I'm bloody well glad that I did.
As are we.
So this is the story of the first ever ASBO that was served in Britain under the Wildlife Act.
Oh, that's niche.
Yeah, I know. But I'm really glad that I found it, actually, because it's something that I care about a lot, is our good old British wildlife and the protection of it.
I was going to say that it's niche if you're just a random person. However, knowing you...
It's not niche.
No, it's not, yeah.
So, first I thought I'd discuss a bit about what an ASBO actually is. Do you know what the acronym stands for, Bobbert?
Antisocial Behaviour Order.
Correcto. So, anybody who is over the age of 12 can be given an ASBO. They're given for antisocial behaviour, including drunken or threatening behaviour, vandalism and graffiti, playing loud music at night, driving in an inconsiderate or careless way, such as drivers congregating in an area for racing, would be considered for an ASBO.
You can also, from personal experience, be considered for an ASBO for barbecuing on a balcony.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Did you almost get an ASBO?
Yeah. The police told me that if I continued to barbecue on my balcony, I would get an ASBO.
Excellent.
So
Did you
I
get
had
an ASBO from your own balcony, I wonder?
Well, it was my balcony.
Amazing. If you're given an ASBO, it doesn't mean you've actually been convicted of a crime, and it won't be part of any criminal record, but it is a crime to break the terms of your ASBO. So that's what's important.
No more barbecuing.
No more barbecuing. So if you're served an ASBO, they'll put a term on it, you can't go to this certain place or you can't do a certain thing, and if you're found to be there or be doing that thing, then you're breaking the terms of it and you will be arrested for that.
Right.
If you break the terms of your ASBO as an adult, you can be fined an unlimited amount or sentenced to 5 years in prison, or both.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of thought it was like a slap on the wrist type thing.
An ASBO is, but if you break it, then you're fucked.
Right, okay.
If you break the terms of your ASBO as a 10 to 14-year-old...
Yep.
Oh, wait.
12 to 14-year-old.
Yeah, I don't know how I've got 10 down there, because you've got to be over 12. All right, 12 to 14-year-old. Then you can be fined up to £250.
This is what happens when you do your own research.
If you break the terms of your ASBO as a 15 to 17-year-old, then you can be fined up to £1,000. It's a lot of money. If you're under 16, your parents can pay it for you.
Well, I mean, to be honest, if I did
have to.
it now, my parents might have to pay for it anyway.
Well, if I had £1,000 fine right now, my mum and dad would definitely have
We'd
to pay
have to do 3 or 4 podcasts a week.
to get a lot more patrons.
We're never using Patreon money to pay an ASBO. I'd like to clear that up right now.
No promises from this side. So, in February 2012, Magistrates handed out the first ever wildlife ASBO to 49-year-old Matthew Gonshaw, who is dubbed Public Enemy Number 1 by the RSPB. And for those of you that don't know, RSPB is the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds.
He's a lot older than I thought you were going to say there.
Yeah, 49 years old. He was also banned from Scotland during breeding season for 10 years after being caught with more than 700 rare eggs from endangered breeds, including golden eagles and ospreys.
Oh, shit.
The breeding season, if you're wondering, runs from February 1st to August 31st.
This is animal breeding season.
Yes.
Right, okay.
And mine.
And yours. That's when you go into heat.
We're deep in this season. He was also banned from all RSPB land and any land owned by the Wildlife Trust until 2022.
Oh, wow. So he's still...
Yeah, it was only 2012 that this was handed out, and it's
Right.
a 10-year ban from Scotland during the breeding season, any RSPB land and any land owned by the Wildlife Trust. So that's quite a lot of places you cannot
So
go.
I presume he doesn't live in Scotland.
No.
No, he was just visiting for the rare eggs.
Yes,
Right.
actually. Yeah, he was. So some of these eggs contained live chicks, but Gonshaw killed them by drilling a small hole into the egg, which makes me feel sick.
Well, yeah, because I instantly thought by taking the eggs he was using them for, like,
No, not hatching them.
hatching, like incubating them purposes.
Nope.
Or he's just using the eggs as trophies.
Yep, so he stored the shells in elaborate display cases at his home in Bow, East London.
What a horrible, horrible man.
Yeah, he's just a shit, isn't he?
Yeah.
In one raid, officers found the egg of the rare black-tailed godwit, of which there are estimated to be fewer than 40 breeding pairs left.
Wow, that's...
It's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really horrid.
Really fucking kicking conservation in the dick there. It makes me so mad. I was really mad when I was reading this, actually.
Wait, what were we talking about on Don't Kick, Just Cuddle? And you go with kicking conservation in the dick.
So Gonshaw, at this point, 2012, when he was being sentenced, had 51 convictions under the Wildlife and Countryside Act, which he'd amassed over a decade.
Was he a man of the land, if you know what I mean?
No, I don't know what you mean.
Like you know, like all these fox hunting bastards are all
No.
like, they're all like the gentry that they all own land.
Oh,
and
right,
like,
no.
not farmers, but you know what I mean?
No, he's
Just,
not.
Right, okay.
He was also described in a previous hearing as having an encyclopedic knowledge of birds. He was living on benefits, so there's your answer.
Yeah, okay.
He was living on benefits and hitchhiked and lived in the wild in order to go on his egg-finding hunts. He
Right.
didn't have any money.
No.
Not really.
I don't know what I was going to say there. I was going to say there's nothing wrong with you know, having your hobby is hitchhiking in the wilds and stuff like that. You know, that's all fine, but what you do when you get there,
Kind of matters, doesn't it?
yeah,
Really
it does.
snatching up eggs.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We live in one of the best places in the world for access to the wildlife. You
Yes,
know,
we do.
the open access law in Scotland. Or
Loads of conservation projects are based here in Stirling. You've
Yeah.
got BTO are there, the British Trust for Ornithology.
I was going to go with British Turtle Organisation, but
Wrong.
okay.
You've got Frog Life, who specialise in amphibians.
I was saying,
You've got,
yeah,
you've got the Butterfly Conservation Trust,
they're all in Stirling.
Bumblebee Conservation Trust. They've got an office here too.
Oh wow!
They're based at the uni.
Well, of course, because the uni's got that big, like, kind of agricultural bit of it and everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, agriculture. Well, they've got no they've got the big
horticulture.
conservation.
Yeah,
I
like they've
think
got
what
the
you're going
greenhouses
for.
up the back and everything.
Well, yes, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's all like part of like the conservation kind of side of things. That's
Okay.
why I wanted to start. That's why I studied it. So
Oh, right,
like,
okay.
you need to get into all of it, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
And the Wren project, which I worked on for my dissertation.
Oh,
Big
right,
shout
show
out.
off.
I know, but it's like that's the woodland creation and oh my god, ecological links.
I was going to say you
project.
studied really well on that one, didn't you?
It's been a while. Yeah, so lots of conservation based here in Stirling, which we're very lucky about because we do live in such a beautiful part of the world, and Scotland in particular is really good for lots of different seabirds as well, certainly. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like the ospreys and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah,
Sorry, carry on.
I know
No,
I totally just got sidetracked and started just
No, I know. We can do your. We'll do the Nadine's wildlife podcast after this. It's fine.
Wildlife Corner with Nadine. Love that. It was thought that Gonshaw had spent weeks living rough to monitor around 170 different nests, making meticulous notes, and appeared to be motivated only by trophy hunting, and he seemingly made no money from any of the thefts.
So it's
He's just for himself.
a complete self-indulgence.
Yeah, he's just like obsessed.
Right. Okay.
He was arrested on the island of Rum, which I need to visit.
Yes, you do. It's lovely.
He was arrested on the island of Rum in the Hebrides in the summer of 2011 after police found detailed maps, climbing equipment and camouflage clothes in his home. If he breaks his ban, he faces a £20,000 fine or 5 years in jail.
Both.
Or both. At the time of sentencing, he was serving his 4th sentence for egg collecting, having been jailed in December of 2011 when he was arrested on the island of Rum. Mark Thomas of the RSPB said, "He has become a serial menace, targeting our rarest birds, such as the red kite and peregrine falcon, for a selfish desire to add to his collection. Already being the only man in England to be denied the joy of visiting our nature reserves, he must surely realise it's time to give it up."
Yeah. Yeah, you'd think...
this is the first time that they've had to do this.
Right, okay.
Which is, you've gone way too far.
Take the fire out of your eyes.
Oh, I'm so mad at him. PC Stephen Rogers of the Met's Wildlife Crime Unit said that Gonshaw had directly jeopardised Britain's wildlife. As far as I could see in my research, he's not done it again, and nor has anyone else received a wildlife ASBO since.
Well, it's because he's not allowed in Scotland.
Yeah, I know. But he's not broken the terms of his...
I've got this image in my head of him just being a lonely, geeky, horrible man.
Yeah, I think so, pretty much.
That's probably quite scared by the fact that he got caught.
I hope so.
Yeah. But I mean, like I say, that's just my own personal image.
Actually, he was in prison when he got sentenced. I don't know how long he was meant to be in prison for. Should look that up.
Maybe.
Oops. The only thing that I could find that was as close to somebody receiving a wildlife ASBO was somebody received an ASBO for hair coursing. Do you know what hair coursing is?
Well, I'm presuming hairs as in bunnies.
Yeah.
Not
hair.
Being a shite barber.
No. So, yeah, hair coursing is a blood sport which people use greyhounds or other sight hounds to chase hares by sight rather than by scent.
So, like fox hunting type?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Hair coursing became illegal first in Scotland in 2012 when the Scottish Parliament passed the Protection of Wild Mammals Act, and it later became illegal in the rest of the UK in 2005 when the British Parliament passed the Hunting Act, which banned hair coursing and other forms of hunting with hounds, which I think's fabulous.
Yeah. So,
this part of the story in particular is very dear to my heart because my new job, I work with many dogs that are ex-hair coursers, ex-badger baiters.
Oh, you never told me that.
Yeah,
okay.
so lots of them are ex-hair coursers, ex-badger baiters, that kind of, come from that kind of background.
So do you have to, rehabilitate them away from the bloodlust?
Yeah, a little bit. So, for example, we've got quite a few dogs that when we're out on a walk, just now it's peak rabbit season. There's many rabbits out and around, and you can see them sniffing around in the bushes, and a few of them certainly are on high alert a lot of the time, waiting to see a rabbit. I'm
going to put a rule on this. You're only allowed to walk one dog at a time because if you've got one in each hand
of course
and they go for rabbits, you're getting dragged along the ground.
It's a rule anyway, but yeah. So quite a lot of the dogs in our care have come from that past, and I think it's just fucking disgusting actually to train an animal to hunt another one just for your own satisfaction.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there'll be an instinct in the animal to do that sort of thing anyway, but to enhance it and to bring it out specifically is horrible.
The way that they train them is horrible as well. I don't want to get into it, but
no, please don't.
So in October 2015, 54-year-old Keith Livingston was given an ASBO for hair coursing, which was the first ASBO for this crime to be handed out in Scotland. He was also fined £150 for 2 offences under the Wildlife and Countryside Act, which was brought about in 1981 at Edinburgh Sheriff Court. Livingston is banned from entering land with a dog or with other people with a dog for 18 months. He was arrested in Pathhead, Midlothian in October 2014, and his case was heard a year later. It was found that he had committed the crime in East and Midlothian. PC Jamie Hood of Police Scotland said, "Hair coursing is a crime that has no consideration for wildlife or the impact on people who legitimately make a living from the land. People involved in this activity can also be involved in other criminal activity. This sentence should serve as a serious deterrent to anyone involved in hair coursing in Scotland."
Yeah. Random sidetrack, if you'd like.
Go.
So I was listening to, I think it was No Such Thing as a Fish, one of my favourites. They were talking about people whose land is getting destroyed by tourists.
Oh, Yes.
So there's two examples. That one of them was in not last podcast. No Such Thing as a Fish. Sunflower farm in Canada.
Oh yeah, I've seen about that.
People going to take selfies and taking the sunflowers away with them and all that kind of stuff.
Trampling all the sunflowers.
There was also one in the south of France. It's a photography blog that I was reading, and it's the lavender fields, and they're absolutely stunning purple lines of lavender. But people turning up and mainly kind of tourist photographers who think they're doing model shoots, but folk turning up with full wardrobe changes.
Oh, for Christ's sake!
And wedding dress shoots in the lavender fields, but they're just trampling across all this man's crop.
Ruining it.
But the guy put up some signs. It's along the lines of "Please get off my land, think of us."
Yeah.
On all the trees,
Oh,
so you can't take a
ruined your
photo.
shot.
Yeah, totally. And I was like, good on that guy,
Yeah.
totally. But the sunflower one, I'm sure it was Canada. It's entirely their own fault. They put up a thing saying, "Come and pay a couple of dollars and take a selfie at the sunflower fields," but they ended up with 7-kilometer long traffic jams.
Oh my god!
People trying to get in to take a selfie, and people bringing step ladders so they can get it up through the crops and everything. But it's that same kind of thing that you're talking
Yeah.
about. It's you're ruining
Just have
somebody's
no
livelihood.
consideration.
Yeah, totally.
I hate hunting and stuff anyway. As I don't
Well,
think it's not a secret.
No, it's not a secret.
Absolutely cannot stand it. Even more so now doing the job that I do, and yeah, I came across that story and I thought it was really interesting that these ASBOs have been handed out. They're quite, because the wildlife one with the egg stealing guy is quite an extreme example of needing an ASBO to stop somebody doing something like that, because he'd already been sentenced and stuff and already had
the ASBO was
convictions.
quite a controversial thing when it started. But
Yeah.
that's an example of when it's clearly worked.
Yeah, needed. But the hair coursing one, it doesn't seem like he was overly so. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't
Just
seem
an
like he
asshole.
was an extreme hair courser and did it more than anybody other hair coursers did. But I'm really glad something more needs to be done. But
feel
it's good
that-
that something's being done.
Yeah, it is. But I also feel like that's an excellent name for a hairdresser, the extreme hair courser.
Also, shout out to my colleagues. Yo,
Yeah, hiya. How are
that
you?
story was for you.
And I know you said this to me during our last Patreon episode, which if you want to listen to, please go and sign up. It's not something you would have ever thought of doing with my smugglers one.
Yeah.
I would never, ever have thought of going, who got an ASBO for what?
Yeah.
That's really cool. I like
Thank
that a
you.
lot. Yeah. That's my favourite thing about this is when we do things, you pull out a story and I go,
Yeah.
wouldn't even have bothered. Not bothered, but would never
Yeah.
have come to my mind. But there you go.
Thank
That was
you.
cool. I like that.
Thanks.
So we will
Take a short break.
take a short break, as we always do, and we will come back to you in a moment. Bye.
Bye.
Olivia, is that you?
Oh my god, hi, how are you?
Honestly, pretty bummed out.
What about?
I was just reading about how the US government hired Nazis after the Nuremberg trials.
Oh my god, I know. Can you believe it? I'm kind of on a sad binge too. I stayed up late last night reading about the influenza pandemic of 1918.
God, that was devastating. I think I know the book you're talking about too. It's on my list. I've just been really hooked on documentaries right now. Have you seen that Flat Earth documentary?
No, but I did watch the Fire Festival documentary. It was insane.
Almost as insane as the fact that slavery is still legal in the US.
Is that a baseline?
Hi, I'm Brooke. Are you someone that likes consuming media that feeds your wildest fears?
No, wait.
Are you a consumer of the macabre and disturbing?
You can't just drop something about slavery like
We
that.
talk all that and more on Things That Keep Me Up at Night, a podcast for those that like to commiserate and learn more about things that we promise will make you lose sleep.
We're available on all platforms, and you can find us at TTK Me Up on Instagram and Twitter.
New uploads every Friday. Join in on the horror.
You were kidding about the slavery thing, right?
And that's us back.
Hello.
Nadine's doing her usual since she moved to Glasgow. She's on the softies.
I'm driving. I was going to say I'm drinking.
I'm drinking. No, you're driving.
I'm driving.
You need to work that train system out, I feel.
Oh, I know, but I'd have to... Oh, no.
No?
No. Because the last train from Glasgow Queen Street that goes to where I need to be going is at like 11:30, so I'd need to be on a train from here at like 11. I'd have to be a well early night.
Yeah, and that would leave me pissed and going home at like 10:30.
Rubbish.
Yeah, I can't do that. Or I'd just stay in the pub.
Yeah, you'd probably just stay in the pub.
Yeah, well, anyway. So we still have Vicky with us. Hello, Vicky.
Hello.
I hope you enjoyed the first act of Twisted Britain this evening.
Yeah, it was awesome. I forgot that I was present. I just thought I was a podcast.
Well, there you go. That's
nice.
We'll take that as a compliment that we almost sound as good live as we do recorded. Maybe one day we'll do it live and we'll invite you all round.
Pretty much is live.
Yeah. And you're always welcome to come to Settle In if you want to see us. Oh. Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may well take you up on that one day. I've never been to Scotland, so...
you have to come.
If you are ever in Scotland and don't come and see us, you will have two sad hosts here.
Yes.
I'll even buy you an orange squash.
Awesome, thank you.
In fact, that's not true. I'll buy you whatever drink you want, to be honest.
I was going to say, orange squash is pretty much... I think we just give it out for free in here.
Ah.
Oh, don't tell everybody.
Don't tell everybody that. So, yeah, my story... I'm on Long Story this week, and I have one that's, like I say...
Well, Bob's just revealed to us both that it's in his top 3, are you saying? Top 3?
Yeah, definitely up there.
Top 3 grimmest stories that he's done, so I can't wait.
I wouldn't say grimmest story. I mean, they're all grim stories, but there's one aspect to this that just made me go, ugh.
Oh, God.
So, if I can remember where that happens, I'll tell you about it. If not, I'll just tell you at the end.
Fab.
So this is the story of the Barnes mystery.
Barnes as in...
Barnes.
Okay, so not barns like where you'd keep your chickens.
No, we're not safe as chickens this week.
Not safe in a hen house.
You always have to make it about you, don't you?
Rude.
So, Julia Martha Thomas was a widow living in Richmond who, on the 2nd of March 1879, was murdered by 30-year-old Irish maid Kate Webster.
Mm.
Or Katherine Webster was her name, but she went by Kate. Julia lived in the well-off area of Richmond in London, and she was twice widowed. She was a twice-widowed schoolteacher who, since the death of her second husband, had lived on her own in a 2-storey semi-detached villa at 2 Mayfield cottages. She was a woman of not too bad means, but was looking for a housemaid mainly for a bit of company and to allow her to have a better social life. She was recommended Katherine Webster by a friend. So who was Katherine/Kate Webster? I'm going to go with Kate for the rest of this.
Okay.
So Kate was a 30-year-old Irish woman who had a history of petty theft. She was born in Killane in Ireland in 1849. In her youth, Kate gained a reputation for theft. She was imprisoned for petty theft at the age of 15 in December 1864. After her release, she continued to steal and use the profits from her theft to buy a ticket to Liverpool, arriving in England in 1867. Not long after arriving in Liverpool, she was locked up again, this time for 4 years, again for theft, being released in 1872. She moved at this point to London, where, having clearly not learned her lesson, it took her only another 3 years to get caught again, to be sentenced to 18 months in Wandsworth Prison, where she would take another trip later in her life. She spent another 12 months at Her Majesty's pleasure in 1877, this time again for stealing. Most of these thefts happened while she was under the employment as a cleaner and maid, where she would steal from the household she was working in. Whilst working as a cleaner/maid, she had made friends with a woman by the name of Sarah Creese, who was working as a charwoman. Now, we've spoken about charwomen before.
Yeah, we have.
Charwoman basically being somebody that was not a live-in maid, but somebody...
So she goes round, cleans up the char from your fire.
Essentially, yeah, but also did all the other household
bits and
bobs as well. So she was working as a charwoman in Richmond to a Mrs. Loader. One day, while Sarah was ill, Kate covered her work for her at Mrs. Loader's house, and off the back of this, she was recommended to a friend of Mrs. Loader's who she knew was looking for a housemaid. On the first meeting, Julia Thomas and Kate Webster, Kate managed to charm her And off the back of this one meeting, having not even asked about her past, Julia employed her. Kate became a bit more... I've written hate-filled here, but I don't think it was hate-filled. It was more of a... She had a bit of resentment towards her employer, Julia, because Julia basically said, your work's shite. You're getting worse and worse the more comfortable you get. And off the back of that, Julia started to get a bit scared of Kate, because the amount of basically Julia had criticised Kate's work so much that she'd built up to the point where she was like just being a nasty, horrible woman, even though she was the maid.
Oh God!
And
just
it got
sack her.
Well, we're getting to that. So it got to the point where Julia was so scared of her that she'd asked a friend to come and stay with her.
Oh my God!
They at this point came to an agreement that Kate would finish up her employment on the 28th of February, which is only a month after she'd started working with Julia.
Wonder if it was a leap year.
No, it wasn't. It definitely wasn't, because I know for a fact that only a couple of days later, Kate had managed to convince Julia to extend the date to the 2nd of March. And it definitely didn't say 3 days. It definitely said 2 days.
Okay.
So she managed to extend it to the 2nd of March, and on that day, the two women had an argument before Julia went off to church, where the other congregation members reported that Julia appeared very agitated. After leaving the church and heading home, she was confronted by a very angry Kate. And according to the confession of Kate later, here is what happened in the house. Mrs. Thomas came in and went upstairs. I went up after her. We had an argument which ripened into a quarrel, and in the height of my anger and rage, I threw her from the top of the stairs to the ground floor. She had a heavy fall, and I became agitated at what had occurred. I lost all control of myself, and to prevent her screaming and getting me into trouble, I caught her by the throat, and in the struggle she was choked, and I threw her onto the floor.
Jesus. An honest admission, though.
This admission comes a lot later on. So, like I say, this is the admission that she gives after her arrest. We've not quite got to her arrest yet.
I quite like the fact, though, that in her eyes, a quarrel is worse than an argument. I think it's the other way around.
You see, I would have gone that way as well.
I think a quarrel sounds like, oh, we've had a quarrel, like quite offhand.
I think you and I have a quarrel every time we record.
I'm having a quarrel right bloody now. Whereas like an argument to me, if somebody was like, oh, we had an argument, I'd say, oh, that sounds bad.
Yeah, to me, an argument, you take something away.
Yeah.
And there's a wee bit of meh that goes with it. A quarrel's
a bit of what, sorry?
A wee bit of meh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, okay. Whereas a quarrel is just like,
oh, we had a bit of a Barney.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Is that how you and Rosalind quarrel?
No, it's just me saying sorry. Sorry.
Good, quite right. Rosalind's always right.
Yeah.
Love you.
Oh, I know. At this point, however, a neighbour had reported to have heard a sound like a chair falling over, but thought nothing of it at the time and doesn't remember any sounds of quarrelling. Webster, at this point, had to deal with that age-old problem of what do you do with the body? Well, she started to dismember it.
Oh.
Burning something. Yeah. Sorry, that was a bit sudden, wasn't it? There you go. So yeah, she dismembered it with a rather sharp razor.
That must have taken some time.
She burnt some of it and boiled some of it in the laundry copper.
Oh.
Now, laundry copper being what they would have put the dirty laundry into.
What good does boiling do? Like, what? It's not going to go anywhere. Now you've just got cooked bits of body.
Well, I've got another quote from her here that will give you a bit of a insight into what she was thinking.
What was it Dr. Cream used again? When he was cutting up his missus in the bath? He was using surgical implements. Was I thought he was because he was an actual doctor.
Yeah, no.
And he struggled as a doctor with surgical instruments. She's using a razor. Can't say it went well.
Oh no, and speculating here, but I would imagine you'd go through the joints.
I know, but like with a razor.
Don't know. She had all the time in the world.
Jesus.
All
right, quote me up.
So this is another part of her confession to describe her actions. I determined to do away with the body as best as I could. I chopped the head from the body with the assistance of a razor, which I used to cut through the flesh afterwards. I also used a meat saw and a carving knife to cut the body up. I prepared the copper, which was the laundry copper, with water to boil to prevent the body being identified. As soon as I had succeeded in cutting it up, I placed it in the copper and boiled it. I opened the stomach with a carving knife and burned it up as much of the parts as I could. Your face is an absolute picture right now.
Jesus.
So her theory being, boil it, and I suppose all the flesh would start to fall off the bones and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Told you it was grim.
Do you know? Oh, I don't even know if I want to say it out loud. I might have to ask
Please
you to
do.
edit it out. All I got from that really was the fact that she says, "I boiled it to stop it from being recognised." Does she mean her head?
No.
Okay, thank fuck for that.
All the other bits.
Oh, good.
The head will come back to.
Oh, good.
You'll
Wonder no more.
You'll like the story of the like's a strong word. You'll like part of the story about the head. It's a sentence I didn't even think I was going to say today, and I know what I'm going to say. So she's cut up the body, she's boiled it all up, made a horrible soup, and then over the next few days, neighbours recalled a terrible smell coming from the property, and Kate herself confessed that she was greatly overcome by the sight before me and the smell.
Jesus.
Katherine continued to run the house, putting on an air of normality, all while packing Mrs. Thomas's remains, not her remaining articles, her actual remains, into a black Gladstone bag and a corded bonnet box.
Oh.
Now, I don't know what a Gladstone bag is.
I was literally just picked up my phone to Google it because I was like, what?
Aren't they the big leather ones with like the clip on the top?
Is it like the Mary Poppins bag?
You're so right.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it's got like a clasp on the top, like an old school doctor's bag almost. You know, like that. You can imagine them going and like snapping it closed.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Okay, that's it. Yeah, yeah. So pretty much what like you said, Vicky, like with a big clasp on the top of it. Yeah.
I'll post a photo of one for everybody else.
And a corded bonnet box.
Oh, I'll have a look.
Have a look at a corded bonnet box. But I would imagine that was a box that you kept your bonnet in.
Well, yes. Corded.
However, Kate was unable to fit the feet or the head into the packages, and she disposed of these separately. She threw the foot into a rubbish heap in Twickenham and secreted...
I think the corded... Sorry to interrupt.
No, carry on.
The corded seems to relate more to the hat style rather than the box.
Oh, so a corded
bonnet.
Box. Okay, fine. Sorry. So yeah, she wasn't able to fit one of the feet or the head into either of the packages, so she decided to get rid of them separately. The foot she threw into a rubbish heap in Twickenham, and then she secreted the head in a shallow grave in the stables at the Hole in the Wall public house. After this, she decided to pay a visit to her old neighbours, the Porters, who she'd not seen in over 6 years. She did this dressed in some of Julia's best clothes,
Inconspicuous.
carrying the Gladstone bag that contained the body bits with her. She told the Porters that she was now Mrs. Thomas, having married and been widowed since she last saw them.
Sounds like somebody lost their shit whilst they were cutting up a body.
Yes, she did. She also told them that she'd been left a house in Richmond by her aunt. So she was she's taken that step up from stealing from people's houses to stealing people's houses. Kate invited Mr. Porter and his son Robert out to the Oxford and Cambridge Arms pub. And while they were in the pub and drinking, she snuck out the pub and disposed of the Gladstone bag over a bridge into the Thames, never to be recovered again.
I think they'd notice.
Well...
See if you were... Right, you come in this pub with a big old bag.
Or big old jacket, as you always put it. Yeah, okay.
So you come in here with a big old bag, and I'm like, that's a big bag. Like, don't say anything, though, but, like, you know, I'm going to notice your big bag there. And then you nip outside, and you come back bagless. I'm going to notice.
I'm going to put, how pissed are you at this point?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So this is my theory, and completely my theory. Detective Bob hat on.
Okay.
They've gone to the pub. I don't know why she's gone to meet them, other than
Alibi.
No, she needs help from the son.
Oh.
So they go in, get slightly pissed. She buggers off, flings the bag away. She goes back and joins them. Yeah, la 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 la. Having a lovely night. Bag's gone, literally forever. Never found the bag. Kate then asked young Robert Porter if he could help her carry a heavy box from 2 Mayfield Cottage. As they carried it out of the house, they crossed the Richmond Bridge, where Kate dropped the box over the railing into the Thames, and she was in, and I quote, able to explain it away and not arouse Robert's suspicions.
What?
I don't know. So
Sure, I thought you were going to say she like did a pretend trip. What? Whoops. Oh, there goes my bag. Box.
Box is gone.
Oh, my bonnets.
my big box.
My corded bonnets.
My big heavy box of corded bonnets. This was the beginning of her downfall.
Oh, this is the beginning of it.
Because to be honest, she was living in the house at this point. Nobody suspected the woman was dead. She wasn't, there was nothing untoward. Well, there was obviously the cutting up of the bodies was untoward, but there was nothing untoward other than the weird smell.
Okay.
The next day, the box washed up on the banks of the Thames in shallow water and was spotted by a coal porter as he was pushing his cart. On inspection of the box, he found it to contain body parts wrapped in brown paper.
Oh, just like Dr. Cream.
Just like Dr. Cream. The police were contacted and an investigation began. Kate continued to live in the house at Mayfield Cottages, passing it off as her own home, and she sold a lot of the furniture to a local pub to help them furnish the place.
That's nice.
On one occasion, when the carts arrived outside to help move some of the furniture, a neighbour asked them what they were doing, and the driver stated, "We're helping Mrs. Thomas." At which point he pointed at Kate.
Rumbled.
The neighbour, obviously suspicious that something was going on, contacted the police. Kate, obviously knowing that she'd been busted, fled the scene. I'm going to put in here now, there's stories of the local area of people trying to be sold lard.
Oh, don't.
By Kate. And the story was circulated amongst people, and now it was never brought up in the trial that will happen at some point soon, but she was supposed to have been selling lard to local people and dripping to the local pubs.
Stop it.
I told you it was grim. So when the police arrived at the property, they found bloodstains everywhere, charred finger bones in the fireplace, and a fatty ring inside the laundry copper. Oh. Well, she obviously didn't get all the lard out, did she?
Oh my God, stop it. Actually, the one thing that really turns my stomach, so I'm pretty...
It's human lard.
That's it. One and only. No, I'm really not squeamish at all. Blood, fine, needles, fine, whatever, pain, fine.
I can't do needles.
No, anything like that, fine. But the one thing that really turns my stomach is moldy food. I can't do it, off milk. And when fat's left behind in a pan after cooking bacon or something, ugh, it just really, I can't stand it. So even the idea of a lard ring in a pan already makes me feel kind of sick. The idea that came from human boiled flesh makes me feel worse.
She's missed out on a sale there.
She has. That's probably a good jar's worth there, isn't it? And that's what really makes me feel sick.
And that, not the cutting the head off. No, just the human fat in the... Right, okay. Says a lot about you, Nadine. So the police obviously at this point issued a warrant for Kate's arrest. And it didn't take Scotland Yard that long to track her down. She'd fled back to Liverpool, where she'd boarded a boat back to Ireland, and I think it was a coal steamer that she boarded back to Ireland. And they found her hiding in her uncle's house in Culzean. She was arrested on the 29th of March in 1879 by the Irish Royal Constabulary. Oh, wow.
Ooh, go again?
We'll try that one again, shall we? Constabulary. Right, okay.
Got it. The Royal Irish Constabulary.
Thank you very much. She was arrested on the 29th of March in 1879 by the Irish Royal Constabulary. I was genuinely going to keep going there until you started laughing.
Sorry. All right.
This is Twisted Britain after a couple of pints, by the way. Hi there. Try again.
Go.
Constabulary.
The Queen's English, darling.
Constabulary.
All of your syllables.
Shh. She was arrested on the 29th of March, 1879 by the Irish Royal Constabulary, and she was found to have some of Mrs. Thomas's, Julia Thomas's possessions on her at the time.
Silly.
She was sent back to London to stand trial at the Old Bailey, and the trial was so big and like it was so massive of the time that even the Crown Prince of Sweden, the future King Gustav V, turned up to watch the trial.
I think that's the best guest at a public trial that we've had so far.
I think did we have Dickens at a trial before as well?
Did we?
We've had another famous person at a trial, but I'm going with Crown Prince of Sweden as like that's
top tier.
Top tier. So throughout the trial, Kate maintained her innocence, blaming everyone from the porters that she went to meet, Mr. Porter and Robert Porter, to the publican that had bought the furniture. After 6 days of trial, the jury retired and returned with a verdict of guilty. Even after this, Kate pleaded her innocence, even trying to escape the death penalty by claiming she was pregnant. After being examined in the courtroom by women present, this was chalked up as another one of her lies.
Hold.
Sorry, carry on.
Did you just say claimed to be pregnant and then was examined by women in the courtroom and they're like, you're not pregnant?
Yeah, exactly.
Qualified women? Just women?
I just think they went...
Just get a few...
I can get myself in some sticky hot water here without really not... I'll end up in a laundry copper here.
She just like sat there in the dock,
yeah. In the dock.
And then she's like, no, but you can't, I'm pregnant. And then the judge goes, any women here that want to come and have a look?
Yeah.
And then some women had a look and they're like, nah.
Don't ask me these complicated questions. I presume they didn't do like a proper inspection of her at the time, but this is the 1870s.
I was just imagining some women just like looking her up and down and going, doesn't look pregnant to me, like kind of thing.
You don't look pregnant to me, hen. I have no idea how much of this is staying in.
Rather than going that far.
Well, all I know is that some women examined her and said, you're not pregnant.
Great. Continue. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine, because I don't know the answers to your question, which is why I'm moving us along. The next sentence is pretty harsh to follow that with.
Right, go on.
So she was sentenced to hang.
Well.
Rightfully so.
Yes.
She was sentenced to hang for the willful and premeditated murder of Julia Thomas. She continued to deny any involvement in the murder up until the night before her execution, and seeing no way out, decided to clear her conscience and confess to the prison chaplain, a Father McKerney, and she was hung on the 29th of July, 1879, by William Marwood. William Marwood being a very famous executioner, and I think he was the guy that came up with the long drop.
Cool.
So, well, at this point, we don't really know what happened to the head.
Oh, God, I forgot.
Well, in 2007, a Sir David Attenborough bought the derelict remains.
I've been wondering what Porter's going to like.
So David Attenborough bought...
the hole in the wall?
He bought the Hole in the Wall pub.
Oh.
And on the 22nd of October, 2010, workmen carrying out excavation at the rear of the pub uncovered what turned out to be a woman's skull.
Shut the fuck up.
It was obviously immediately speculated that the skull was that of the missing head of Julia Martha Thomas. The coroner asked the Richmond police to carry out an investigation into the identity and the circumstances of the skull's death. The skull owner's death, sorry. The skull had fracture marks consistent with Weber's account of throwing Julia down the stairs, and it was found to have a low collagen level, which is consistent with being boiled. In July 2011, The coroner concluded that the skull was that indeed of Julia.
So she did boil the head.
So she did boil the head.
Oh, Bob!
DNA testing was not possible as she had died childless, with no relatives being able to be traced. There is also no record where the rest of her body had been buried. So they couldn't get a DNA match from the rest of her body.
It wasn't buried, it was chucked.
Well, it was recovered, though.
The Gladstone bag wasn't.
The Gladstone bag wasn't, but the bonnet box was.
Yeah, okay.
So there's no record of where the bits from the bonnet box
weird.
were buried. So they couldn't...
Yeah.
They couldn't DNA match to the other pieces.
Bloody well lied to me. You said she didn't boil the head.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Made me feel kind of sweaty.
You're boiling. So the skull, basically, from what I read, was the foundations of the new foundations for the pub were about 40 years ago in 2011, so nearly 50 years ago now, and it was found below that.
That's so cool.
So they know for a fact that the skull was older than 50 years old, and it was found on top of a level of Victorian waste, or in amongst a level of Victorian waste, so they could date it to that time. Radiocarbon dating came back at between 1650 and 1880, because there's that period where they can't narrow it down any further. But the injury sustained to the head and the low collagen levels meant it basically couldn't be anybody else. So yeah,
that's it. This is my favourite story you've ever done.
David Attenborough found her head.
Questions? Does David Attenborough own a pub?
Yes, it's part of his... he bought a...
Is it a pub, though?
I don't know, actually. So David Attenborough owns a cottage that is where Mayfield Cottages was, and he bought... So when the pub closed and fell into dereliction, David Attenborough bought the pub, and as part of the renovation process, they found this skull.
That's fucking cool.
So Sir David Attenborough found the...
Solved a murder. We didn't.
He didn't solve a murder. His workies found...
Detective David Attenborough.
Sir Detective David Attenborough. His workies found the skull of Julia.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So, like I say, there's some really grim parts of that story, but I thought I'd end it on
David Attenborough. The highest note you can ever end anything on.
So yeah, that's the really sad story of Julia Thomas, because she, from the accounts I read, was an outgoing woman, but was reasonably lonely and just needed somebody to come and keep her company and do her housework and stuff like that. And she just employed what was an absolute horror of a human being.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
madness. Quarrel, throwing her down the stairs.
Yeah.
Wanted to stop her from shouting to get her in trouble, so killed her. And then cut her up.
And went from...
And cooked her.
Yeah, and went from that to going, this is all mine now.
That's mad. She lost her mind somewhere along the line.
She's not just horrible, she is a bit away with the fairies. It's like so audacious to think you can do that and get away with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
it's that... Yeah, I'm going to go with away with the fairies as well, actually. I think she's lost her shit while doing it and just
must have
automatically gone, this has gone beyond a cover-up.
Mm-hmm.
How can I profit from this?
Seems to be kind of a common theme. Like when I did the story on the murdering butler, the monstrous butler. Monstrous butler is what we went for in the end, wasn't it? Because he murdered the woman he worked for, and the maid came with him. Like, they killed the woman, and then they kidnapped the husband and took him up to Scotland before they then killed him. And she went along for the ride, really, like the maid. Yeah, that's and she wore all of her clothes and dressed up like her. And then that's why they ended up murdering her, because she was just doing their head in with it.
Whereas I think
she's getting a bit too bold for her boots.
I think this is slightly different.
But still mental.
In that Kate was a bit of a nasty piece of work to start with. You know, she didn't... Yes, she did lose her shit in the process, but at the same time, I think she's been tipped over the edge and not panicked, but okay, you don't panic and boil somebody. She's gone with that. I need to get rid of this. I need to sell this. I need to take the money and bugger off. What she would have ended up doing, we've no idea.
I mean, you didn't have to sell the Lord, did you?
Well, like I said, that was a bit of a story. Whether that actually happened or whether that was a horrible rumour mill.
an urban legend rather than true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to go with urban legend on that as well.
Fair. But still, like, to go around and tell people, especially you've gone and seen two old pals, not seen them for 6 years, go and see your old pals, the Porters, and then you're like, oh, yes, I'm now married and have a big house and blah, blah, blah. Like, you've gone totally batshit, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah, you absolutely have.
I feel really sorry for the woman.
For Julia?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do I. She was, like I say, she was a twice widowed woman.
Do you know what I've learnt from you recently? Don't hire a maid.
Yeah, no, I'd go with that.
So we've got Kate, don't want her to work for me, and also Jessie McLaughlin.
That's right, yeah.
No thanks.
My Glasgow Murder Mile. Yes, I've done a few maids recently, haven't I? No,
tell Rosalind.
no, don't tell her. Yeah, I felt it was... I don't actually even know how I stumbled across this story. And it was a stumble. It was a stumble across, and I found the picture of Kate, and she is a terrifying woman
Oh, God.
to look at. Now, I know I've said to you in the past, oh no, she was a
Yeah.
beautiful woman, and then you look at her and go, really, Bob? And I'm like, of their time, all that kind of stuff. This is one of the scariest women I think I've ever laid eyes on.
Oh, God, okay.
And it's the picture I'm going to give you to use for
For the clues?
For the clues.
Lovely.
So yeah, like I say, that's the
Well, I enjoyed it massively.
thank you very much. Hope
And
you enjoyed
also
it too, Vicky.
Didn't enjoy it at the same
I
time.
thought that was ace, yeah. Especially like the twist at the end where David Attenborough found the head.
That was
Yeah, it's fantastic.
and I actually
It's
didn't
my new favourite story.
I actually didn't know that bit of it until I was reading it.
Oh,
Like I didn't
excellent.
find that he found a head and then looked backwards. I was just reading the story and got halfway down and went, "Wait, what? What? Why has David Attenborough got her head?" But he doesn't have her head. I don't know where it is now. Obviously, I don't think he just like keeps it on his
If
desk or
David
anything.
Attenborough doesn't talk to me because you've started a rumour that he owns a woman's head, I swear I will never talk to you again.
And on that lovely note, we're going to say a massive thank you to Vicky for joining us.
Yeah, it's been lovely.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. It's been ace.
Yeah, thank you for joining us for our weekly bletherings. If you have liked what you hear tonight and you are a first-time listener, please go back and listen to our previous episodes. Mm-hmm. You can find us...
Excuse the first few, very nervous.
No, don't excuse them. Listen to them and you'll see that
The
we...
improvements.
Not just the improvements, that we mean what we're doing. We're enjoying what we're doing. Please do rate and subscribe on whatever podcast app you're listening to. We're on pretty much all of them, I think.
I think so.
If you find one we're not on, send us a message and we'll try and sort that. Ratings and reviews help other people find us, and 5-star reviews are always our favourites.
Make us happy.
You can always join us on all of our social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter.
Twisted Britain.
You can find us on Instagram.
Twisted Britain.
You can find us on Facebook.
Twisted Britain.
You could join our lovely discussion group on Facebook, which you'll find...
Twisted Britain discussion group.
because we're really original. If you have liked what you listen to and you, like Vicky, want to hear more of us, which, why wouldn't you? We release an extra episode every month on the 15th of the month to our Patreons. You can find us on Patreon by just searching Twisted Britain.
Yep.
I think there's a link on all of our social media sites
Yes,
as well.
there is. Also, do you know what we don't bring up enough? If you really, really like us and you want people to know about us, but you don't know how to bring it up in an organic manner, go onto our merch site and buy a badge or a t-shirt or a hoodie and wear it. And when somebody goes, "Hey, what's Twisted Britain?" be like, "Just the best podcast I've ever listened to."
Yeah, or you could tell the truth and say it's a podcast I listen to and I quite like it. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening this evening.
Thank you.
We'll leave you, as we have done for the past few weeks, with my boy telling you thank you, love you, bye.
Baby.
Thank you, love you, bye.
And we'll say thank you, love you, bye.
Thank you, love you, bye.
Vicky, would you like to join us?
Oh, yep, thank you, love you. Love you, bye.
Bye.
Bye.